What's your favorite wild edible? Mine might be a little weird, but if you're watching this, you can probably make a good guess. Yep, that's right, I like nettles. There are a few types of nettles that are common in my area. You have the common nettle, Urtica dioica, and the wood nettle, Laportea canadensis. There's also Urtica gracilis, the slender nettle, but I haven't bumped into that one too much, so forget I mentioned it. They're all edible and nice plants to have in the garden under the right conditions. If you're a gardener or live in Europe, you're probably more connected with the common stinging nettle, Urtica dioica. The leaves are serrated, grow oppositely from one another, and are covered in small, needle-like hairs. If you take a look at the stem, it has a squarish, four-angled shape, with deep grooves. A square stem can be a characteristic of the mint family, but this plant isn't so minty fresh. Instead, when you brush the leaves against your nose, they sting you. Who'da thunk? This species of nettle is not native to North America, instead coming from Europe or Asia along with the other colonists. They're aggressive growers, spreaders, and colonizers themselves, and as such can be considered noxious weeds in some environments. That is, if you don't manage to eat them all first. The other species that's common around here is the wood nettle, Laportea canadensis. This, as the name suggests, is more of a woodland species. I typically find it in the shade of deciduous broadleaf forests, or near streams in moist, fertile soil. Right away, you should be able to notice some distinct features that separate wood nettles from the non-native nettles. The leaves of wood nettles are much larger and broader, like many of the other plants growing in heavy shade. The leaves are also alternately attached, and often quite far apart. They're still covered in stinging hairs, so watch out. The flower structures are different between the two species as well. Both have separate male and female flowers. Wood nettles have their male flowers lower on the plant and female flowers towards the top. These are some male flowers on wood nettles. At the very tip of the plant are the female flowers, and that's where the seeds will develop. These are much more branched and upright compared to the other species. The stinging nettle, Urtica dioica, can be dioecious, with separate male and female plants. Their flowers are, scientifically speaking, more dangly. Both of these species of stinging nettles are excellent edibles, despite their tendency to cause lots of pain to the unsuspecting gardener. If you look closely enough, you should be able to see the hypodermic needle-like trichomes that are responsible for this painful reaction. These little needles can pierce human skin and inject tiny amounts of acetylcholine, histamine, and serotonin. And those are all compounds that result in the stinging, rashy response. Luckily, the sting wears off pretty quickly, and the rash is mostly gone within hours, or at least it is for me. Although fleeting, it's far from desirable, but I'd still take nettles any day over a bee sting or poison ivy. That's something a lot of people freak out about when you say that you can eat nettles. They'll say things like, but they sting you, they've gotta be poisonous. Or, okay then, you first. Joke's on them since they're actually pretty good for you. Almost all the nutritional research out there focuses on Urtica dioica, and it shows that they're high in iron, potassium, calcium, manganese, as well as vitamins A and C. Nettles also contain up to 25% protein by dry weight, which is pretty good for a plant. So, with all that, why wouldn't you want to eat nettles? Well, probably because they sting you, but that's easy to get over. Soaking nettles in water for a while will significantly dampen their stinging power, but drying, quickly steaming, or boiling them are the safest, most foolproof methods. So, onto harvesting. I'll harvest with bare hands sometimes, usually because I forget to keep gloves on me. They tend not to sting my palm or my fingertips, but if I touch them anywhere a bit softer, like between the fingers, then that's going to be a sting. But it's not too bad. Honestly, the best thing you could do is put on a tough pair of work gloves, or something like these nitrile-coated ones and just dig in there. Nothing should bother you with these on. Thick leather gloves work great too. Stinging nettles are best when eaten young. They can be eaten from early spring through summer, up until the time that they flower. After that point, the leaves start developing cystoliths, which are little gritty aggregations of calcium carbonate. These can apparently irritate the urinary tract, so that's not a good thing. I'm not sure if the wood nettle has the same issue, but I found their leaves to remain more palatable longer throughout the season. If you're growing stinging nettles in the garden, on purpose, like some kind of crazy person, or like I do, you can repeatedly cut them back to encourage new shoots. Harvest one growing point and 2 more will grow, like a tasty hydra. That's kind of the ideal situation. Another thing worth mentioning is that the stems can get pretty tough, so if you're harvesting whole shoots, try to just use the top few inches. Later in the season, you might just want to switch to picking individual leaves off. Just in case anyone's still a bit wary, I'm gonna eat some. For this task, I brought along my trusty foraging basket. It's perfect for small amounts of greens and fitting with whatever aesthetic I'm trying to achieve. I never really used a basket very much before. I tend to just throw things into my backpack or into plastic bags, but now I think I kinda get it. That's a nice bunch of nettles. Now let's go inside and get to work. We're going to be making a nettle smoothie out of this, something that I got in the habit of doing last year when I had a consistent supply. Since I won't be cooking them, I really try to make sure they're clean, and from a good site with no pollution or animal waste. The first step is to rinse everything off really well, getting off all the bits of dirt and bugs. I'll soak them for a while first to give everything a chance to loosen up. Once they're soaked, I can't sting myself even if I try to, so that's nice. You can mix them in whatever ratios with any fruits that you have, but I'll try to make something with what I have on hand. I have some frozen aronia berries that I picked last summer. These will give everything a nice purple color and a bunch of antioxidants. Next, we have pawpaw pulp cubes. They're just frozen pawpaw pulp that I stuffed into ice cube trays. These are leftovers from last season as well, and they add a nice creaminess and tropical flavor. Finally, we have some black walnuts. I've been liking them in smoothies. They kind of add a weird blueberry cherry kind of flavor. I have a bunch, and this is probably a healthier way to use them rather than making brownies all the time. Then you just toss everything in with enough water to blend it smooth. I also add just a bit of orange juice to help give some acidity. I never have any issues with stinging, but make sure you blend it really well. It helps to break up the little stem pieces too. Sometimes green smoothies can end up a bit brown, but the color on this one actually isn't that bad. I think that's probably because of all the aronia berries we threw in there. So yeah, nettle smoothie. Just a little sweet, but not too much, and it definitely helps you poop. If this seems interesting to you, go get you some nettles. And as always, don't eat something stupid and end up dying. Okay, bye.